Hi there, and thank you for tuning in. My name is Hope Dorman, and I'm a member of the industry marketing team here at Houzz. Today, we have a special guest who will share insights from the Q3 2020 House Renovation Barometer report. Marine Sargsyan is here with us. She is a senior economist and has been with Houzz for 2 years. We're grateful that she's here to share her analysis for our pro community. Marine, thank you for joining us.
Hope, thank you so much for having me.
Today, we'll discuss the findings of the report, including the three indicators that we track with our House Barometer: the expected business activity indicator, project backlog indicator, and recent business activity indicator. Then, we'll discuss how pros are managing their businesses. Marine, to start us off, can you tell us a bit about the House Renovation Barometer?
Of course, last month we released our house renovation barometer for the third quarter in 2020. This quarterly survey is sent to our remodeling and design firms registered on House and received over 2,000 responses. Construction and the architectural and design services are the two major sectors remodeling and design firms fall into. We have been fielding this survey quarterly since the beginning of 2015.
Great, thanks for that summary. First, let's talk about the expected business activity indicator, since that has the most dramatic shift since the last barometer report.
Indeed, I'm happy to report that the expectations for business activity have bounced back among firms in both sectors nationally. The two groups of businesses we track in the construction services sector, build only remodelers and the design build remodelers, reported recovered expectations, and their positive sentiments lifted the expected business activity indicator from an all time low of 18 at the start of the last quarter to 75 at the start of the third quarter. What's especially interesting is that it is a slightly higher than expectations at the start of 2020. The recovery in expected business activity indicator among the businesses in the construction sector was driven by an increase in expected project inquiries, new committed projects. As for the regional improvements compared to the same period a year ago, our data shows that the expectations in the construction sector have improved for 7 out of 9 US Census divisions. The two regions for which expectations are below the levels from a year ago are the Pacific Division, with Alaska, California, Hawaii, Oregon, and Washington, and West South Central, with Arkansas, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Texas Division. As I mentioned earlier, we see improvements in architectural and design services sector as well. Architects and interior designers reported much higher expectations for new business activity for the third quarter of 2020 compared with the start of Q2. Their score of 67 for the expected business activity indicator shows that more firms are expecting increases than are expecting decreases in their business activity in the next 3 months. This is a remarkable improvement compared to the gloomy expectations in Q2. Indeed, the recovered confidence in the industry moving forward is back to its pre-pandemic levels. Architects reported a 22-point increase in overall expectations to 64 relative to the start of the Q2 2020. This increase is driven by increase in the project inquiries to 69 and new committed projects to 59, while both of these components were below 50 in Q2. Interior designers' expectations are more optimistic and have increased by 51 points to 73 relative to start of the second quarter. When we scrutinize our findings even further for the architectural and design services sector, we notice that while there is a substantial recovery in all 9 regional divisions compared to Q2, when we compare the expectations for business activity in the next 3 months to the levels a year ago, we note that they have especially tuned down in the East South Central Division among businesses servicing Alabama, Kentucky, Mississippi, and Tennessee, and have exceeded among businesses in the Middle Atlantic Division in states like New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania.
That's fantastic to hear that our community of pros has renewed their positive expectations. Can you explain a bit more about the major decline and recovery that we have seen in the indicator this year?
Hope, it's a really good question, and my sense is that it is multidimensional, We know that the expectations in Q2 were largely affected by the uncertainty we were facing related to the pandemic nationally and worldwide. Our expected business activity indicator has picked up the unease professionals in our industry were facing due to the sheltering in place orders, construction restrictions, health concerns, and disruptions in shipping and product availability. As things became more clear because of the entrepreneurial mindset of professionals in our industry, as we discussed last time, businesses have identified ways and processes to continue and perform services amidst the pandemic. Now, if we turn to our findings among the homeowners, we learned that 52% of homeowners in Houzz who were in the midst of a home renovation or design projects when the pandemic was declared continued their projects. 47% put their projects on hold but still wish to complete them, and only 1% have canceled them. All these combined explains why the sentiments have bounced back among firms in our industry. That said, we're still to see what the expectations for Q4 will be and how the Q3 will actually shape up.
What great news that so many homeowners continued their projects even after the pandemic hit and such a small percentage had to cancel. Which brings us to our next topic. Let's look at what the respondents shared about their workloads and pipelines. What is the project backlog indicator and how does it compare to the past?
Sure, Hope. The backlog indicator is our way of keeping a pulse on the project pipelines. Construction businesses that are focused on remodeling reported that wait times before they can take on a mid-sized project from a new client now average 6.2 weeks, up 0.8 week compared with the start of the previous quarter. The average wait times is 1.3 weeks longer than this time last year. Design build remodelers have the longest wait time at 7 weeks, up 1.2 weeks from the start of the prior quarter, and are 1.8 weeks longer than a year ago. The wait times for build only remodelers average at 5.4 weeks, up just under a half a week compared with the start of the previous quarter, and are about a week longer than a year ago. Backlogs vary significantly by region, as the map shows. Among the 9 geographic divisions defined by the US Census, the West South Central Division of the US has the shortest average wait time at 4.6 weeks, while the East North Central Division has the longest wait time at 7.2 weeks. For the architectural and design firms, the project backlog indicator rose to average of 4.5 weeks nationally at the start of the third quarter of 2020, an increase of just under 1 full week from the start of Q2 2020. Compared with a year ago when the wait times were 4.7 weeks, wait times are slightly shorter now. Taking a closer look by professional type, architects have a longer wait times and took on a new mid-sized project at 5.5 weeks, up just under 2 weeks from Q2. Interior designers have a wait time of 2.8 weeks, down just under 1 week relative to the start of Q2 2020. Compared with a year ago, wait times reported by architects are longer and are shorter among interior designers. Variation in backlog across regional division is not as substantial in the architectural and design services sector as it was for the construction sector. The New England division of the US has the shortest average wait time at 4 weeks, while the Mountain division has the longest at 4.94 weeks.
Thanks for breaking that down for us. Can you tell us what the increased backlog numbers mean?
Hope, that's a really good question, and here is what we hear from our pros. We know that the project inquiries were the driving force of the activity in Q2 as well as in expectations for Q3. That said, we can conclude that the increase in backlog numbers show that pros may have a pipeline of work. However, our pros also tell us that there are delays in receiving products and materials. Projects are taking longer due to disruptions in supply chain and because of all extra safety precautionary steps that professionals have to implement for the safety reasons. Therefore, homeowners might have to wait longer for the pros to finish their current projects. Note, however, that this is not the case for our interior design firms. Their backlogs are the lowest this quarter since 2017.
I see, and that makes sense given the general shift of demand for buying items online instead of in store due to store closures. And manufacturers are now grappling with physical distancing guidelines in their warehouses and factories, meaning they might have a reduction from their typical production. Next, let's discuss the third major aspect of the report, the recent business activity indicator. What did the report show us there?
The recent business activity indicator looks at actual activity over the previous 3 months. In contrast with the expected business activity and project backlog indicators, which look forward in time, the recent business activity indicator looks back in time. It's based on survey questions that ask businesses to report whether they observe the actual number of project inquiries and new committed projects increasing, decreasing, or staying the same in the previous 3 months relative to the 3 months before that. Surprisingly, we see that the business activity has increased nationally and across both sectors of the industry, which suggests that the quarter, with all the restrictions in place, has performed slightly better than it did from January through March. An increase in new project inquiries in April, May, and June raised the business activity indicator of the barometer to 49 for construction firms, which is up 1 point from the previous quarter. The slight increase is, however, driven by an increase in the project inquiry component at 51 compared to 46 in Q1. While the new committed project component decreased over the same periods of time to 46 from 50 in the last quarter, recent business activity for Q2 is lower from the levels in the same period a year ago across all 9 US divisions. For the design firms, the recent business activity indicator composed of recent project inquiries and new committed project increased to 48 in April, May, and June, and is up 4 points from the prior 3 months. The story behind this increase is very similar to that of construction sector. More firms in architectural and design services sector report increases than decreases in the project inquiry component of the recent business activity indicator. In contrast, the new committed project component has declined from 50 in Q1 to 43 in Q2.
So, while the new committed projects component of the recent business activity indicator is down compared to the quarter before, I think that these numbers really highlight that the renovation industry did not suffer the complete halting of projects like some initially feared when the coronavirus pandemic really became a national issue, which was around the time of the last barometer report. And for our final question, in our last webinar about the barometer report, we talked about how professionals are being resilient and adapting their business practices to meet the changing state of things during the pandemic. Do you have any updated data to share about how pros are managing their businesses given this new environment?
We did ask about that and saw increases across the board regarding the adoption of remote collaboration and communication tools. For the construction sector, we saw that percentage of firms that use remote collaboration and communication tools increased from 30% to 37%. We also observed that 1 in 3 construction firms sourced materials online, which is an increase from 26% 3 months ago. For the design sector, the share of firms using video consultations jumped from 49% to 59%, which means now more than half of businesses in this sector utilize the tool. Share of firms resorting to online sourcing increased as well, from 34% to 45%.
It's remarkable how quickly businesses shifted and adopted these new tools and ways of working. And I did just want to take a moment to mention that Houzz Pro is here as a great resource to help pros with their collaboration and business growth efforts. We have video call functionality and project management tools such as our proposal or estimation software, idea books, mood boards, and 3D floor planner, which make it super easy for pros and their clients to keep projects moving forward remotely. If you're interested in learning more, send an email to grow@houzz.com and we'll get you set up with an interactive demo. So, Marine, since we've covered our agenda topics, what is one takeaway you would like our professionals to remember from this webinar?
Hope, I would like to leave our listeners with the following. We found that in general, while more than 4 in 5 renovation businesses reported being impacted by coronavirus pandemic, effects such as project delays, a slowdown in new inquiries, and project cancellations were all reported by fewer businesses in the Q3 barometer compared to Q2. While shipping delays continue to be a significant impact, there are signs pointing to pros having adjusted to the circumstances and moving forward. Finally, an overwhelming majority of companies, 82% of firms in the construction sector and 73% in the architectural and design services sector, report a neutral to good outlook for 2020 compared with 66 and 56% respectively in Q2.
That sounds quite reassuring. Well, first, thank you so much, Marine, for taking the time to present this research. I hope it gives our audience a better understanding of where we stand and what may come in the future. If you'd like to read the full report, please check it out at houzz.com/research. And of course, thank you to all who tuned in. We appreciate you spending part of your day with us, virtually, of course, and we hope you'll join us for our future Houzz webinars.